good evening, and welcome to New York Theater Barn's New Work Series.
I am Jen Sandler, and I'm the Associate Artistic Director.
And I'm Joe Barros. I'm the Artistic Director, and tonight we are excited to present excerpts from the new musicals Between the Lines and My Little Barbizon, making this the 18th virtual installment of our New Work Series.
Every week you say that, the numbers sound so insane, because with all of our virtual programming combined with our choreography lab, with our special benefit we did back in June, we've presented 40 new musicals and 69 writers we've helped since the end of March.
Wow, 40 new musicals and 69 writers. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah, we're so proud. And tonight's broadcast will also be simulcast for Broadway On Demand. And we are so happy to have been working with them since, I believe, June now. So thank you, Broadway On Demand.
Thank you. New York Theater Barn actively seeks out and curates important culture-shifting stories that we don't know from storytellers we want to hear from. And because of this, our team has been meeting to discuss ways of our organization to further develop anti-racist culture.
We have carefully and thoughtfully chosen and dedicated 50% of our donations since June, each week for the past 9 weeks, to a different charity that supports Black lives and civil rights.
And here to tell us more about this initiative and New York Theater Barn is our friend and writer, Deborah Barsha.
Hello, my name is Deborah Barsha, and I am coming to you from my home in lovely Putnam County, New York. I am co-writer of the all-female musical A Taste of Things to Come, and also of Radiant Baby, a musical about the life of Keith Haring. New York Theater Barn has provided an amazing space for the development of original new works, not just as a woman, but as a queer woman. I've been supported at New York Theater Barn. My musical, Boy Meets Girl, adapted from the movie of the same name, was given its first reading in New York Theater Barn. And New York Theater Barn also championed my musical, The Helena Project, which was inspired by the untold true story of a Holocaust survivor saved by dance. It was featured in New York Theater Barn's choreography lab, and it received a writer's residency grant from NAMT to further develop the show with this vital organization. Like me, the writers of tonight's new musicals are proud members of Maestra, an organization which provides support, visibility, and community for the women who make the music in the musical theater industry. Tonight, we'll conclude with a song as well, written by me and my collaborator Sheila Ray, who's also a member of Maestra. And in anticipation of this year's presidential election, our song, Turn It All Around, is an anthem inspired by the centennial anniversary of women being able to vote nationally. New York Theater Barn is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your gift is tax deductible. Half of this week's donations will go to support A Long Walk Home, an organization that empowers young artists and activists to end violence against all women and girls. Thank you for supporting live theater, and now enjoy the show.
Thank you, Deborah. She's one of my favorite people. We are excited to support A Long Walk Home.
And we are also excited to support next week's charity, the Black Trans Travel Fund.
Yes, the Black Trans Travel Fund is a grassroots mutual aid-based organization developed for the purpose of providing Black transgender women with the financial resources necessary to them to be able to self-determine and access their safest travel options.
And tonight we are, as we said before, we're celebrating women's stories and female writers. And Deborah mentioned all of tonight's writers are members of Maestra. She's able to go on your screen right now. It's an amazing trailblazing organization founded by the wonderful Georgia Stitt. If you don't know about Maestra, Maestra's membership is made up of female-identifying, non-binary, and gender non-conforming composers, music directors, orchestrators, arrangers, copyists, rehearsal pianists, so many jobs like people don't even realize are a thing in our industry. So many musicians who are an underrepresented minority in musical theater. So we have a video from Maestra. Take a look.
Maestra is a powerful resource. We need more women music makers on Broadway.
We're working to make sure that in the future, quality is not a question.
White men are willfully keeping opportunities from those who don't look like them.
Every pit that I clean in, we're all men. I think many times we have heard people say, I would like to hire women, but I just don't know where to find them.
Maestra is a not-for-profit organization that I started 2.5 years ago. The directory that we built is the go-to resource in our industry for people who say, want to hire more diversity, I don't know where to find them.
There's only been one female orchestrator to have worked on Broadway in the last decade.
Why didn't anybody think of this before?
Community is sustenance. Community is support.
It's something that's hopefully going to help a lot of people.
I hear all the time from the instrumentalists that I work with that they get jobs in the Maestra directory.
I was working on a project. We went on the Maestra database and we found a number of female music directors working in the area.
For the longest time, there were a million reasons about why there weren't more women working in the musical theater. Maestra is systematically knocking down all of those obstacles.
Actually having a place to come together and hear how other people are working and how other women are making it work.
This organization is filling a really important need.
I just think it's a brilliant and so necessary organization.
There's lyricists, librettists, music directors. It's an organization we can point to and say, here they are, hire them.
And this year we're hiring a statistician to look at what the numbers really are in the industry so that we can tell the story and tell it definitively and change it.
Thank you for creating a path for the women of my generation.
Their database is amazing. It's true. If you ever need a woman musician for anything, they are the people to look for.
Absolutely. We saw so many familiar faces in there, like Sheila Ray, Nancy Ford, Angela Sclafani, Macy Schmidt. Some amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
So last week's Newark series featured the new musicals A Crossing and Forget Me Not.
And here is a clip from last week's presentation of A Crossing. Take a look.
Both my parents are immigrants, and I decided that's what I want to do. I want to tell a story about immigrants. And so I called Julie Boyd at Barrington Stage and asked her if she wanted to do this with me. And I wanted to do this, like, I wanted to tell as much of the story in dance as possible. And I met with Mark St. Germain and we started to develop the story. And Zoe came on board and we started to figure out what the sound was.
Come from I'm first generation as well. And so I felt like very emotionally connected to the story. He makes the decision that they're gonna cross the border, but she, like any good teenager, is like not so thrilled about it.
And you say it's only for a few years. Soon I'll meet somebody new, but I've seen the truth. They're not like me or you. If it's really best for us, but we have to beg for shelter. Try time and time again. If it's worth it, then would they separate mother and child, kept in holding pens? If they really wanted us, we could walk across the border, two arms wide open. Say it with me now, say it with me now, with dignity. I don't want nobody who don't want me.
We've kind of been able to lead the team into certain directions that we think would bring authenticity to the story and to what you're seeing on stage.
I don't know if we've mentioned it, but there's no dialogue in this piece. Yeah, there's no dialogue. There are Zoe songs, there are Mexican folk music, and there's dance. But there's no spoken dialogue. So all the storytelling is done with those three things.
Along with Alberto Lopez as well. His contribution comes from everything from when it comes to the traditional Mexica dance, the Aztec warrior dances. And he has extensive knowledge when it comes to choreography and the style of music from that. So, and it's something that I haven't really seen on the contemporary stage.
And I know what dark is for. Besarte es como ver las estrellas. What dark is for.
I know I'm definitely taking a trip to Barrington for that show. I'm very excited.
It's such a powerful, powerful show.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's a clip from last week's presentation of Forget Me Not. Take a look.
Daddy, what happened when you went looking? Daddy, what happened when I wasn't there? You made thousands still interview, but did you even care? If I came out of the ocean, I'd be prodded and poked, soaked in the stairs, just like the whale girl.
this story I'd heard about a 45-foot, 8-ton whale that had washed ashore in Oregon back in the 70s, and the town decided to explode it, settling on attaching a bunch of dynamite and exploding it, despite what the experts had recommended they do. And I had mentioned to Kate, I was like, what if we wrote a musical about that? And all of a sudden the questions are like, what is this town? What would make them do that? What is the psychology of this town? And Kate, her interests and what she really thrives in is kind of like the mysteries and the secrets behind a town.
So I mean, I guess I was like, oh, exploding whale, I'm totally in. But like, how does that work for 2 hours? That's ridiculous. And so for us, we felt that this community needed to have perhaps like, you know, a brokenness about it, a past that was going to be revisited when the media came around to cover this whale. And so that led us to think, you know, what if a serial killer had targeted this area 10 years prior? You know, the only thing that finally initiates a real search or the discovery of the bodies is the elevation of one presumed victim in particular. And so in the case of our show, that one victim happens to be a white tourist who went missing on vacation near Forget-Me-Not. And so the search for her finally reveals the discovery of 3 local women of color who were murdered. And so he sings this song to her ghost, and he's essentially trying to make amends for how he handled his grief after her death.
'Cause if I'm not tell me, what do I do to start missing you? What do I do to start missing you?
And so essentially our show kind of explores the toll that sort of deep, horrific negligence has taken on this community over the last decade, because the cases were never solved, you know. And so how do you find peace in the face of a broken, cheating system?
Being free is more trouble for me. See, I'm meant to be underwater.
I know we've both had underwater stuck on our head for the last week, so we're excited for this show. That's an understatement.
Who would have thought that the exploding whale would make such a dynamic and bizarre and interesting new music?
Yeah, and it's something like I went through a rabbit hole about after. It's so interesting. Yeah. Well, that was last week. Let's get started with this week. Our first new musical tonight is My Little Barbizon.
My Little Barbizon, with book music and lyrics by Angela Sclafani, is a musical meditation on female writers, mental illness, and the journey inward.
When Annie checks into her room at the Barbazon Hotel, an infamous boarding school for ambitious career girls, she finds company in Joan Didion, Sylvia Plath, Eudora Welty, and Gail Green, writers and former Barbazon girls. What unfolds are a series of conversations that unravel Annie's fears, desires, and relationship to her place in the world.
And now joining us from her home in New York City is the writer of My Little Barbizon, Angela Sclafani.
Hi, Angela.
How are you guys?
We're doing well. In Washington Heights.
Yep.
Awesome. So this is the very first presentation ever of your show, My Little Barbizon. So everyone watching.
Exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. So everyone watching can always say that they saw it here first. Yesterday, I brought Deborah Barsha backstage here to show her video, and I ended up showing her some of the videos, and I played her your songs, and she said, this is the kind of music that should be on Broadway. This is the music I would pay money for. So she's
nice to hear. Well,
and that's from an older voice musical theater to a younger one. So I even think from women to women writers, that's so special.
Yeah, definitely.
So this show, it's so interesting, the amount of different women you have together in one story. What inspired you to want to tell a story with this group of such iconic women?
Well, I just have a real interest in women of the past, especially like brilliant trailblazing women that really didn't have a blueprint of what they wanted to do, because sometimes I feel like that in my life. And I just am always longing for advice from these women that, you know, are either not around or, are not going to sit down with me in my living room. Well, at least not right now. So I thought about sort of what would it be like if I put myself in conversation with these women in an actual space like the Barbizon, which was really iconic for all of these career women, and dreaming up if I had a room there, what would that space be like for me? And, in a way of thinking of it's like, my little getaway, I just was like, oh, it's like my little Barbizon, and especially now, I wrote this in December, but now I feel like my apartment has turned into my little Barbizon in a way, and it's like I'm talking to these different parts of myself. So I found sort of a new relevance to it all.
It almost kind of feels like, the whole idea of, the 5 people dead or alive you would want to have dinner with. I almost kind of think about that when you talk about the premise of this show.
Absolutely. Yeah. It almost reminds me too of February House a little bit, meets like the play Carol Churchill's Top Girls.
It's really funny that you say that, actually, because those are some of the influences that I was drawing from actually, musically and just, I guess in a way spiritually. I was thinking of February House, the way the music is like a whisper in a way, and it unfolds gently. It's very intimate. That's something that I definitely wanted to achieve. And Top Girls, as well as Fethu and her friends. Just the dialogue between these characters and how the writer really created her own rhythm, and it's almost musical in a way. I saw Fethu and her friends at Theater for a New Audience last year, and it was one of my favorite pieces of theater in such a long time. I was lucky enough to actually take a class at NYU that was just like Maria Irene Fornes. So to see it there, it was actually right sort of before I wrote this. I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I remember after I saw it just thinking, oh, theater can be anything. Just forget it. Because I think I get really sometimes stressed out about like, what's the form and like, are people going to get it? And seeing that, I was like, oh, there's somebody that's like, there's glass and she's behind something, and now we're going into different rooms, and you sort of throw the book away, and that's really what I want to do. I just want to like break all those rules that I.
We're really discovering right now that theater can be anything as well, right, Jen?
I was literally took the words out of my mouth. I think the most exciting thing about this time of reflection, this pandemic, has been realizing what we're capable of and what we've been holding back from. Because I think we've had this formula of what we think theater should be, and it can be so many things.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting, especially for me. I also come from the music world, and the sounds that I want to create are not sometimes the sounds that you would typically hear on a Broadway stage, although, the past couple of years, I've just heard so many amazing things, which has been very exciting to know that people are investing in that and wanting to see that on stage. But I'm just really excited to bring all of, my different influences into that, I can be inspired by Fethu and her friends, but also by a Stevie Nicks concert, and just, bring those two together and it makes sense in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, what a new musical, like when you hear a new musical, I think that phrase is constantly evolving what that encompasses. And I think that's what's so exciting about the music of your show. And I mean, let's talk about that more. How did you decide on this tone for the show? Talk to us more about the score and musically what it's like.
Well, I really wanted to achieve that intimacy of conversation, of sitting around in a room together, in a living room, almost like a living room concert of a singer-songwriter. I've been listening to a lot of Joni Mitchell on my record player, and just really returning back to that organic sound where it was about, the philosophies that she's trying to untangle and the things she's trying to discover about herself. Especially Blue, it's a very like coming of age sort of sound. And for me, this story is really about a central woman trying to understand who she is and what she wants. And I think that a singer-songwriter, intimate, organic sound is the perfect tone for that.
I love that you said Joni Mitchell, because Both Sides Now is one of my favorite songs, and I love the evolution of that song that she's recorded. Before we dive into the first song, can you tell us a little bit about your collaboration with Macy Schmidt?
Who is watching? I see Macy in the chat.
Hey, Macy.
Macy has been an amazing collaborator, and this is, actually so new. I said, oh, do you want to do this with me? Like, I haven't shown it to anyone, but it's a thing that I'm doing. And a couple weeks back, actually, I think maybe it was a few months ago when I first sent her a little bit of it. It was, the subject was like the scary play that I'm working on. And I think I wrote like, I'm very scared. And so, just tell me the good things right now, for now. And this week I sent her, sort of a track that I had made, which you will hear an updated, like really gorgeous version that she just threw together so quickly for me. And we have such a great back and forth dynamic like that. So I love working with her.
Yeah, Macy is wonderful. She's literally both on a show this week and a show next week. We have on Kaylee Marshall's Songs for Slutty Girls. So you're going to see her on our broadcast next week. She's, if you need a female orchestrator, is a wonderful person.
Awesome. So we are excited to present two songs from the show. So let's first set up the first song, I Can Count the Monsters.
Yeah, so this song is, in my brain, it's Joan Didion singing it. Who knows if that will evolve, but Annie is having a drink and a smoke with Joan Didion, and she sort of Joan Didion mentions like, something about, we need to like, hide from the monsters of your life, and they sort of unpack what that means and pull that metaphor out and tease it out a little bit. So it's really the first time we dip into talking a little bit about mental health in the show.
And here it is.
I can count the monsters, count them one by five as they arrive into the room, like a shadow cast by moonlight. Oh, and on a clear blue night, when I don't want to fight, they come with guns and horses. Where is the sun? I say, I want to run, but I stay. I could count the monsters, but I grab the ink instead. Write it down and keep them fed. Stand my ground under the moonlight, oh. And on a clear blue night, they'll take all of your fight, drag you through darker courses. Where is the sun? I say, I want to run, but I stay. And when the morning comes, I wake up anew. I'm glad I've made it through, not all of us do. I know all my monsters, know their colors and their names. Every time they play their games, I just meet them in the moonlight, oh. On a clear blue night, when there's no end in sight, they hit with all their forces. But there is sun, I know. I want to run, but I don't go.
So that was the amazing Kim Blanc, who, if you've seen Octet, Alice by Heart, you know who she is. That was wonderful.
Yeah, I love her. She's amazing.
So this show, you're so early in, but like, what are your hopes for it when we get out of this pandemic?
I am just right now in we're in a time of real change, and I certainly have been thinking a lot about my place in the world and the kind of world that I want to see, and really remembering what it was like to be in school when I didn't think about, a career or anything like that. I just was making things and like really excited to discover all of the weird things that I could do. And I only had, a block and my comforter from my dorm, and but yet I could make amazing things. So I'm really wanting to return to that kind of development of theater and collaboration. And I want to open a book and see a word and then write something based on that. I want to get people in a room when we can and do a movement and really go back to the my time at EGW and back to that kind of slow development of work and just exploring and seeing what it could be.
It's the time to experiment, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what is our next song? Our last song tonight, I think you are singing, correct?
Yes. I have to scare myself just a little bit every time. So I'm playing guitar as well. And this song is called The Wanting. I actually wrote this really recently. And it's sort of more of the new material that I'm thinking of bringing in, which is I've been thinking a lot about just womanhood and being an adult and growing up and what that means for me now. And this song is really about, admitting that maybe you don't really accept the things that you want right now, but you're hoping that you will eventually. So, it's on guitar. And I think that, in talking about the tone, really stripping things down, it sounds very vulnerable, and I just think it adds to the intimacy of it.
Absolutely. So let's see it.
Super spoon, a child. Peel back the rind and find the fruit. Roll out the family lion, I'm the suit. There's something sweet in the expected. A teenage revelry resurrected. It's making a meal of my mind. Disposal that I can put one in myself, 'cause I built the furniture and mounted the shelves, not trying to lean into the unexpected, but that whole world and me are disconnected. It's making a meal of my right.
So fantastic.
Oh
I love that lyric. It's making a meal of my mind. The wanting is real, but not the right kind. And Kate Anderson and Elyssa Samsel are backstage agreeing with me. Writing comments saying, oh my God, this lyric. We love the music and your voice.
I'm just speechless. It's too good. I don't have any thoughts.
Thank you for letting me share it. I mean, it's kind of scary to share something so new, but it's really exciting. So I really appreciate that.
The love on this chat tonight, I think you're in a great place, and we're so excited about the show after this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thank you for joining us tonight, and we can't wait to see where the show goes.
And we'll see you soon.
That was so fantastic. And now onto the second half of our presentation, the new musical, Between the Lines.
Based on the book by New York Times bestselling author Jodi Picoult and her daughter Samantha Van Leer, Between the Lines has music and lyrics by Kate Anderson and Elyssa Samsel, and a book by Timothy Allen McDonald.
The show is also directed by our friend Jeff Calhoun. Between the Lines follows Delilah, an outsider in a new school who seeks comfort in the pages of her favorite book, where she feels heard and understood. But as the line between the two worlds of reality and fantasy begin to blur in extraordinary and astonishing ways, Delilah has to confront whether she alone has the power to rewrite her own story.
And now joining us from their homes in California are the writers of Between the Lines, Kate Anderson and Elyssa Samsel. Hello, guys.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy and honored to be following this line of incredible presentations. Angela, that was amazing.
Literally so entranced in that last presentation. I'm just like, I want to go paint or something. I'm inspired.
Well, it's so good to have you both here. I first met Elyssa as an actor, and then I met Kate and learned about your partnership. And New York Theater Barn has enjoyed lifting up your early work a few years back. Wow. And it's so proud of both of you for how much you've grown and accomplished.
And if people don't think they know you, they do, because if you've seen Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which if I'm a Disney fan, I love it. And if you're not and you have kids or nieces or nephews, I'm sure you've seen it with them. It's so much fun. You guys have also written the music for Central Park on Apple TV, which is such a fun show. And those are two things that I feel like people know you for if they don't realize they know you.
Yeah.
And you have like weird and strange things happen to you. Like, didn't Josh Gad ask you to do that job on Instagram?
Yeah, that's a true story.
And also, didn't Disney fake you out when they offered you the job? They called you and told you they wanted to speak with you?
Yeah, my heart is beating just thinking about that.
It was very devastating. They were like, we have some questions for you. And Kate and I stayed up all night thinking, what's it going to be? And then it was a fake. They offered us the job.
That's super cool. Well, Between the Lines is first a book written by New York Times bestselling author Jodi Picoult and her daughter Samantha Van Leer. So how did the adaptation of the musical come about, and how did you end up on the team?
Funny story. It was a time in our lives where we were sort of like on the other side of having finished a show and like waiting to see if something would happen with that. And we had a couple things lined up and they all fell apart at once. And we were like, wow, we're starting over basically. And we were at a super low point, and you never think that will be the day that you get an email in your inbox from bestselling author Jodi Picoult. But it's crazy how the universe delivers in that way. And that's what happened. And I remember getting this email and just like running to Alyssa's house and being like, come on, your porch. I know Jodi Picoult. And we just like hugged each other and cried because I don't know, right off the bat, we were like, this feels really special. And this feels like something huge. And we met Jodi and she sent us the book and we read it in days and connected so much with the story because it was what we were going through at the time. It's about a girl who is sort of at this point in her life where everything's fallen apart. She's totally lost. And she has to find empowerment in herself to change the course of her life. And that's what Jodi did for us. So.
And I think as a woman, even if you don't read Jodi's books on the regular, she's such a voice as a woman where you kind of feel like you're in this little club if she contacts you almost, right?
I mean, we never thought that we'd be in that club. But she is, I mean, I always think that it's really hard for women to be something that they haven't seen. And until we got to meet Jodi and see up close and personal how incredible of a woman she is and how much she takes the microphone and then passes it to other people so that they can be heard as well. Until we saw that, we didn't really know that that was possible. And it's changed a lot for us. And she's always raised the flag for us as female writers. So we couldn't be more fortunate.
Yeah. And it's funny that you call it a club because she would love that. Like, she's like made us like hoodies and like water bottles,
matching bracelets.
Yes. And I think the fact that it's a mother-daughter story, she wrote it with her daughter. I think that's like even more special.
Yes. Yeah, she did. And when she sent it to us, it really resonated with us that she had written it with her daughter. I think it's a common thought for a lot of women in musical theater to realize that there's a shortage of mother-daughter stories being told on Broadway. So when we read the book, we thought it was so incredible that not only is it a mother-daughter story, but it was written by a mother and her daughter. And they have the most incredible relationship I've ever seen in a mom and daughter. And we learned a lot from them. They worked really, really closely with us through the whole adaptation. Seeing the two of them interact is like a lesson in what mother and daughter friendships can be like.
This team is really also, we've become Jodi's family through all of this. Tim McDonald, our amazing book writer, and the two of us and our director, Jeff, like we really have become this family. And Jodi very much like became the mother and was like, welcome into my life and my home and my, she really has made us feel like we're part of her family.
Tell us more about the plot of the show because it's so special.
Yeah, so the plot of the show is that it's about a girl who's 17 years old and her parents get divorced and she moves to a new town and everything truly seems like it is falling apart in her life. And she finds comfort and escape through reading. And one day she discovers this book, and it's a little bit embarrassing because it's like a fairy tale for kids, but she really connects with the story of the prince in the book because he also has to grow up without a father. And she also finds him mildly attractive. She kind of develops a little crush on him and keeps reading and rereading the book. And one day he speaks to her and reaches out actually through the pages, and they start a friendship and a romance. And basically she realizes through the course of the story, spoiler alert, that she can't spend her life living in someone else's story. She needs to go and take up the pen and write her own.
So I think that's a good second to our first song tonight. What is our first song tonight?
Our first song is When I'm Talking to Oliver, and it's sung in this video that you're about to see by Ariel Jacobs. And it's pretty early on in the show. It's that moment where Delilah realizes she's head over heels smitten for this character who has been speaking to her out of a book. So it's the Am I Crazy? It doesn't even matter because I feel so good song in our show.
And here it is.
Lately when I look in the mirror, I have to stop and see if it's me. Now I'm finding twinkly eyes and rosy cheeks. I think I like the girl that I see. I'm marching to a different kind of drummer. When I'm talking to Oliver, I hear music in my humdrum world. And I'm humming a song sweet as chocolate fudgy ice cream swirl. When I'm talking to Oliver, my heart beats like a fanfare. When I'm talking to Oliver. talking to Oliver, when I'm talking to Oliver, when I'm talking to Oliver.
I love that. And I know she's been with the show since your first production.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's,
We love Erica.
yeah, she's a true life princess and was also just playing Jasmine in Aladdin on Broadway. So she really is kind of like pretty much a princess for real.
I just want to give a shout out. We see Jodi watching. Hi, Jodi.
Jodi.
She says she loves you guys so much.
We love her more.
I know the show started out of town in Kansas, and we were hoping to see it here, and we're going to see it soon. But tell us more about the path of your show.
So when Jodi knew that she wanted to turn this into a musical, the stars really aligned because she got her songwriters, which thankfully were me and Kate, and basically at the same time as she got the book writer, Tim McDonald, and our producer, Daryl Roth. So all of that happened within like a week, which, you know, when does that happen? You know, it usually takes forever, but that happened really quickly. And then we all became a team. And then it was after our act one. And so we finished an entire draft of the show. So we did a reading of Act 1 and Act 2. And that was when we got Jeff Calhoun, director of Newsies, to say that he would come on board. And we never thought that we could get him because he's Jeff Calhoun, director of Newsies. And he said yes. And then he joined the team and came to Kansas City with us. And watching his brilliance come to life on the stage, that was my and Kate's first experience of ever having a director lift our work into full costume, full set, full orchestra, full lighting design. And it was like watching black and white turn to color when you've never seen color before.
That's how Jeff works. Jeff is just we worked with him and he's just such an extraordinary person.
Oh, he's incredible.
Incredible leader. And he just keeps the morale so high too. That's the other thing that I really admired about him is like the way he treats actors and the cast is just like, it's so admirable.
He always leads with compassion.
Totally. And if you have one bad idea, Jeff has a gazillion other ideas.
So I know you had this lovely production out of town and then you worked on the show and then you're hoping to have it, you're going to have it next spring, 2021 off Broadway.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed with the amazing Ariel who was on our chat. Hi, Ariel.
You recently added a new cast member to the mix and that's who we're going to see performing the second song. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so our new prince, the incredible Jake David Smith, who just joined us right before we were supposed to begin, but then, you know, everything happened. And so hopefully he'll be with us as we go into this next production. And this next song is a moment in the show where Delilah has realized that he has to leave the story that the prince is in. She has to leave his story so that she can go tell her own. And this is the song that he leaves her with because he wants to empower her and support her in her decision.
And here is Jake David Smith.
Just this once before you it's only you and me. Don't be scared, I'll help you through. I'll give you something to hold on to. And just because it's fiction doesn't mean it's not real. Take my hand, I'll guide the way. Rest your head, be in the now, right now. Nothing else can ever undo this. Our something to hold on to. I'll be your something to hold on to.
Wow, what a star the new prince is.
Me.
This makes you think, what would you do if a prince told you he could like live in a storybook forever? It's so hard.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Ironically, he was just in Frozen on Broadway.
He was.
Sure was.
Yeah. So we're really excited and yeah, I mean, our hopes are high for the future.
You have a great cast. You have Carrie St. Louis. You have Julia Murney. You have Vicki Lewis. You have so many great people. Morgan Siobhan Green. You have so many great people in this show.
Yeah, and when it does come to New York next spring, we're so hopeful that it will spread a message of positivity. This show has always had that, and I feel like it's going to be needed more than ever.
Absolutely.
And we can't wait for people to see it because of that.
Well, I think a message about rewriting your own story and having that power is something that we all need right now, because I think that's what we're seeing in our country and across the world.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. We can't wait for Between the Lines, and we can't wait to see it in New York next year.
Thank you both.
Yes, we'll see you guys soon.
Oh, such a terrific show. And
Yes.
And that's our show for tonight.
Join us next Wednesday, August 12th, for our next new work series. We will feature the new musical Songs for Slutty Girls by Kaylee Marshall and Tyrants by Alexander Sage Oyen and Nora Bridget Monahan.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank you for supporting live theater. And now, enjoy Turn It All Around, written by our friends Deborah Barsha and Sheila Ray, and performed by Wanu Ogunfawara.
Yes, this year you can really use your voice to turn it all around.
Hello.
Hand in hand together when 2020's here. Get out and vote no matter what. Our message will be clear. You can make a difference. I give you my word. If you want to make a change and have your voice be heard, then let's turn it all around. Go out and do your part. You have the power to break through and do what's in your heart. Let's turn it all around and make the madness end.
What is America to me?
This is for the future. Our children are at stake. Give them every chance we can. Let's not make a mistake.